this is Tony.
This is Paul coming at you from the Friends for Life podcast.
And we're go.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Friends for Life podcast here on YouTube. Thanks for tuning back in. If you can, go down below and hit that subscribe button. Help us out a little bit. Tonight we have Mr. Chad Bringman. He's the president of the Ronald McDonald House Charities of Northwest Ohio, and he's also the CEO of BizPulser and Base Results. There are two consulting firms that he runs. We have so much good info about all three organizations tonight, and this is just chock full of good advice, whether you're into disabilities, whether you're into business. You are not going to want to pass this one up. So let's get into it. Today we are here with Chad. You are the president of the Ronald McDonald House Foundation. You have multiple president, CEO titles, very impressive resume. Welcome to our humble yet growing studio. Thank you for coming tonight.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Chad.
We are really excited to have you here. Now, I always like to start out the podcast because you don't just become a CEO and president by just waking up one day. Can you maybe...
for yourself.
No, right?
Yeah. I'm thinking I got to make something out of it, right?
What was that journey for you? Because a lot of people, have these aspirations to become,
Sure.
CEO or president of an organization. So what was that path like for you, maybe through college or even before?
Yep. Mine's a little non-traditional, honestly, and that was kind of a fun journey for me, looking back at it in retrospect, right? So I went back to college as an adult. I was 25 years old when I went back after not doing so well right out of high school, right? And
You waited till the brain.
That's right. But the good news for me was I had some family friends that steered me in a direction to work at the Northwest Ohio Developmental Center. So I started working with individuals with disabilities at that time, and really liked what I was doing and was making decent money. Made a lot of great friends, and it was a great path for me. And then, like I said, when I got to be about 25, I thought, okay, it's time for me to go back. And I worked full time. I did my bachelor's degree in a little less than 3.5 years. Wow. So super motivated to get it done. Got my undergraduate degree in public administration, which then transferred me to go to work for Lucas County Board. I spent some time there as a habilitation specialist, but most of it as a behavior specialist.
Gotcha.
And one of my roles there, I should back up a little bit. While I was doing that, I was also getting my MBA.
Wow.
And got my MBA in finance specifically. And it's kind of a funny story. When I can remember like 5 o'clock at night, locking my office to go home for the day, or I actually back to school. And I would think to myself, why am I studying finance? I'm a behavior specialist. I'm working with individuals with disabilities. I mean, why not social work? Why not, something along those lines? Why finance? But I had this just urge, and that'll come relevant here in a little bit. But one of my roles as behavior specialist was one of the providers we worked with was the Epilepsy Center. And I sat on their quality of life committee, which is just a cool thing. They had this committee that literally we met monthly and we talked about the quality of life for the individuals they served and ways we could improve that. And one day, literally, the CEO slipped me a note and said, would you come here to work for us and run our residential program? So her and I had just some discussion around that. I worked there for a little less than a year. The CEO position became vacant. I got my MBA 6 days prior to that.
Look at that.
And it was funny because we had some challenges financially, as sometimes providers do, right? And it kind of was God coming back to me and saying, all those days when you're locking that door and saying, where's this finance thing intersect with this? Here we go. We had some financial things to figure out. We navigated it very well. The staff and I worked very closely. We wrote a 10-year plan to kind of get things where we want them to be, and we did some great stuff. So it was a lot of fun. So I was 30 years old when I got to be the CEO for the first time. So going from 25, going back to school, there was like a whirlwind 5 years, but I wouldn't trade it. And I mean, we did some really hard things, some really great things, and I loved my team, and it was a cool experience.
That's kind of something that I realized later too. I didn't go back to college till I was like 22, 23, and the same thing. I basically failed out the first time around because I just didn't want to go.
Right.
It wasn't for me.
You mean you had to show up to class?
Yeah,
right?
I mean, what a waste of time. But
Put that controller down.
Right?
Yeah, I went back, and then now currently when I'm not working with Tony, I do finance, and I think that's a realization that came to me. I mean, Tony, you're good with finances. It's kind of a thing that's like
I think a lot of people have dreams to make change, but then they don't want to do the finance side because
right.
it's boring and tough and confusing sometimes with money and how it works. But working in the finance side of things really changed my perspective on a lot of things, and I think that's really important.
It is.
Do you have any advice on that, like why it's important to have finance?
Yeah, and it's kind of funny because not to get too technical here, but finance is different than accounting, right? And and from a finance perspective, you understand accounting, but I'm not the guy that goes in and does all the T accounts and all that stuff. I can if I absolutely had to, I think, but finance is more about making those decisions based on the information you have, right? So data is always a driver, and it's always something that we need to kind of find and understand. Finance is no different. And what I always tell people, perfect time, we're here in October, we're working on budgets, things like that, right? And when we do budgets, what's really important is every number has a story, right? And that's what I love about finances. I can look, if you guys showed me your P&L or your balance sheet, I could pretty much tell your story of your business, and it's a cool thing, right? I can see where your priorities are. There's that saying that more as an individual, but they say, hey, show me your checkbook, and I'll tell you what your priorities are, right?
Yeah.
It's the same with a business.
Like
it is. It's really, really important. So hopefully I addressed your question, but I think it's great because it helps you not only read the story, but forecast the story that you want, right?
And just because I am the one at the table who did not go back to college, and I think I went for a few weeks for social work. And honestly, I wanted to go originally for culinary arts. I mean, I am an awesome cook.
It's not too late to by the way. Just we'll point that out.
I'm the type of person, I'm YouTube University now.
Yeah.
Now, I personally believe you should only go to school for 4 things, and some people will kill me for this, some people will hug me for it. But if you're not my doctor, my accountant, my engineer, or the person who's going to make a drastic decision in how my house or building gets built,
right.
I don't really care about school that much. But I had to go the harder route of learning things because I didn't do that. And that's where I think a lot of people get confused. Like, okay, hey, you don't have to go to college,
right?
But you better be prepared to work twice as hard than the person who did, because that person is already going to have an advantage over you. And a lot of people aren't willing to work that.
Yeah. And I think school or not school, to that point, the hard work really starts. And one of my favorite stories, I'll share it as briefly as I can. But I was, like I said, literally 6 days out of grad school when I interviewed for the ED position or the CEO position. And like my second week on the job, I had to go meet with Dick Anderson. Here you're talking to the president of the Andersons. And
Nice.
We're talking about, he'd been involved with the organization before. We had a change in leadership. I needed to go talk to him. And super guy, passed away last year, but he just did tremendous things for Toledo. And I will tell you something. I had about a 40-minute conversation with Dick Anderson 2 weeks after I took this job, right after I got my MBA. I learned more in 40 minutes with that guy about how to run my business and where my priorities needed to be. That conversation is with me all the time. And it's so to your point, from the reality. School is great, books are great, but I always talk about you learn best from 2 things, the 2 E's, experience and exposure.
Sure. Ooh,
and if you learn from those 2 E's all the time, I don't care if you went to school, you didn't go to school, it doesn't matter. Be ready for those 2.
That's right. Knowledge is power, people.
Yep.
We have to keep learning. If it's not in the classroom, it has to be through another source.
Well, it's funny because as you say that, I learned. I had an initial. I went to school for it was called a certification in audio engineering, which is like I could have figured that out on YouTube and saved thousands of dollars.
Right.
I learned more running Tony's podcast in 6 months than I did going to school for audio, because it's like you just they throw stuff at you and you don't have a where can I go to learn? Can I ask my teacher? You just got to figure it out.
Yep.
That's all there is to it.
Trial by fire, ladies and gentlemen.
Absolutely.
So, Chad, last time we saw each other was last year during the CEO boot camp.
Yep, absolutely.
And which was funny enough, that was the beginning of our podcast services that we started offering you wonderful people, our listeners, this wonderful content. What has changed for you in the last year?
Oh boy, a lot. So
Aside from COVID.
yeah, right, yeah.
That's a whole.
Yeah,
other-
we've been a little more remote than we've been. Right. So from a Ronald McDonald House perspective, a lot has changed, and let me start there, I guess, and hopefully I remember to kind of expand into some other things. But Ronald McDonald House has done really, really incredible through this pandemic, as a lot of people have. And I couldn't be more proud of our frontline staff, because literally for about at least the first 60 days, they were on their own.
Yeah.
There was nobody coming in to cook dinners to help them out. We usually have volunteer groups that come in and cook. That was gone. Volunteers sitting at the front desk or helping clean. That was gone. So I had literally my frontline folks, not only by themselves, but now with these new responsibilities of cleaning and masks and closing areas and whatever. So they did an incredible job, and their leadership themselves, and then the lady that supervised them. I mean, they really did. So long story short, March 16th, when the world changed, right? March 16th is when we kind of had to hit the pause and say, okay, no more volunteers, no more groups cooking, but we're going to stay open. We have 28 bedrooms, so we have up to 28 families that are with us. Typically, we're full. Typically, we're 26, 27, 28 rooms. We were 19 on March 16th. We had 19 rooms full, so we had a little room. For whatever reason, it's just the way it worked out. March 23rd, a week later, we kind of said, okay, no more new families.
Yeah, right.
We'll serve the ones that are there, but we're not going to bring any more. And then we worked a deal with a hotel down the street, and then we were at least putting people in the hotel.
Gotcha.
And that worked okay. And then we got about $40,000 into hotel costs, and we kind of said, okay, we'll continue to serve them there, but no more in the hotel, right? So we kind of just let that wind down. We got down to literally like 2 families in the house, but we were still open. We were still, whatever. So we opened up, we ran a 4-phase plan. Phase 1 was what I just described. Phase 2, Phase 3, and Phase 4. Phase 4 was full open. We're in Phase 4 now. Collectively, that's just awesome. We've had 0, knock on wood, incidents of COVID with our staff or our families, which, by the way, remember, they're going to the hospital during the day. Yeah. So, we're sending exposure in and out. But again, our staff have navigated very well. We've modified Phase 4 a little bit and said, hey, we're only going to take 21 families. 22nd one, we'll use that hotel again. So we back to 1 volunteer answering the phones. At least we got somebody answering the phones. That certainly helps them. We have up to 4 volunteer groups that come in and cook. So if you have 4 or less people, you can come in and cook. That's helping. So we're seeing some relief at this point. But we've navigated extremely well from a fundraising perspective. We're 100% driven by fundraising. I mean, there's no other funding source other than people donating to us.
Definitely, yeah.
So, it humbles me every time that comes out of my mouth. I've been at this 13 years, and every time I say it, I mean, that just humbles me. To be around 40 years, almost 40 years, on nothing but people writing checks or dropping change in the canister at McDonald's or whatever that might be. Through COVID, we're holding our own. I mean, we get about 40% of our revenue in November and December, so the best is yet to see. The test is coming.
Yeah, right.
But we've held our own to this point. So, we're so thankful for the people that support us and donate and round up. Now we added that to where you can go through McDonald's now and you can round up your order rather than just the change. We started that this year. We've done some campaign around that. So, it makes a big difference. Somebody rounds up 17 cents at the drive-through. That makes a big difference for us. So I guess that's a plug,
Yeah,
absolutely.
So round up your orders at Ronald McDonald House or for Ronald McDonald House.
Please help.
Absolutely. So I'm so proud of our board. I'm so proud of our staff. The families have been incredible through this process because they're going through the worst days of their life.
Yeah.
They have a very sick child. They've come to Toledo. They don't know anything about the Ronald McDonald House or Toledo or the outcome of their child. And we just take that away, right? They know now where they're going to stay. They know now where they're going to eat. It's not going to cost them anything because of what people are doing. So it's an important mission, but it just, I don't know. I'm proud of the work that we've done there.
Well, and you're a very humble human being from what I've seen from you. And you have every right to be happy because that's phenomenal to hear. For one, people are stepping up and, and hopefully, come November time, everybody write checks. Come on,
Right.
we can give a little.
Yeah.
You know, matter of fact, give a lot, because a lot of people haven't been able to do things lately. You know, give that extra to the people that really need it. I think that that's important.
Yeah, it's great. And our families really do appreciate the support. I mean, imagine that you're coming into, again, my wife and I are blessed with 2 very healthy children, that are now 22 and 19, which I can't even believe that, right? I still feel like that's me, right?
I just had I got an 18-year-old now. And, oh my goodness.
Yeah,
Like,
I tell you, it goes fast, doesn't it?
Yeah, reality.
Yeah. How can you be 18 when you're still 20, right?
I'm like, dude, no, you can't drive my sweet car.
Right, right on.
Oh. So, what do you guys have planned? You know, I know, I'm sure your predictions pre-COVID were extremely different, but now soon to be post-COVID,
Right.
because I do feel like we're going to get out of this at some point.
Yep.
So, what's the future looking like for you?
So from a day-to-day operations, like I said, we're in phase 4, a little bit of a modified. So full open is certainly upon us, and hopefully that continues on that path. And right now we have every reason to believe that it will. So from that operational side, that's great. Our big hurdle is typically November. We have our big event, right? And everybody's canceling events around town, et cetera. We did the same thing, except we're going to go virtual,
There you go.
which is kind of cool. We're pretty excited about it. The guy that's running it for us, this is what he does, and Melissa Andrews from WTOL, she hosts it every year for us. She's going to host it. She'll be, I believe, at the station. I'm going to be at the house, kind of in different places. So we'll go live to me in the kitchen. We'll go live to me and, whatever. So I think it's kind of cool, because typically you get 300, 350 people in a room, and, we all celebrate together and we watch family stories. But now we're going to be out there, which is pretty fun, So we might have a couple thousand people paying attention. So we're kind of excited about what this virtual might do for us. We're certainly going to miss the contact and the day of, but I'm kind of excited about what this might be, because it might be a really cool opportunity for people outside that maybe normally don't see. Go in and, just watch for an hour. It's, November 12th, which is a Thursday night. It's going to be Facebook Live or whatever it's going to be.
Will it be a semi-formal event? Like, can I wear a
you
shirt
can wear
and
whatever
tie
the heck you want. Yes.
and boxer shorts?
That's right. A swimsuit. I don't care. That's right.
That's what he's wearing right now, actually.
Look, one time during the meeting, I said, "Hey, let's do the Zoom challenge." And the Zoom challenge is you just stand up.
Yeah.
And we see what you're wearing.
That's great.
I would fail that one.
Yeah.
Most of the time I did, because there have been meetings that I would have on a Friends for Life polo or anything very nice.
Yeah.
But underneath it was straight pajamas.
Why didn't you tell me this earlier, like yesterday? Because I had a board meeting today. That could have been fun.
Try it next time.
Yeah. Do you think? What do you think of the virtual thing? You think it's better, more efficient? Do you think it's inhibitive in any way, or what's your opinion? Because just an example for us, it's opened a lot of doors that we would have never thought of. I would have never thought of talking to some places out in California that Tony's reached to. Like Zoom was just meetings, whatever.
Yeah.
Has it changed anything for
It
you
has,
at all?
and it's funny that, we're all having this conversation, right? And in the beginning, we're like, oh my God. I mean, I was like, what is Google Hangouts? Literally, I don't like to think of myself as old, but, there was a lot of these. I'd heard of Zoom, but Google Hangout I didn't know about. So then I was on Google Hangout literally all day, every day for a while. But you're right. We were able to reach people we normally don't. We were able to talk to, in the case of Ronald McDonald House, we were able to talk to maybe donors that we, don't normally get the opportunity, because they could be in their office, trying to run their business, but they can jump on a little 10-minute call rather than jump in the car, meet me for lunch, and that kind of thing, which has been impossible. So we saw a lot of that. And from a meeting perspective, I think in some ways it's more efficient. I think even from this virtual event, I mean, we're talking a little bit like, even if that goes live next year, we could kind of revitalize the old telethon concept. And maybe we do this in December every year, because our anniversary is December 9th. We're like, we could have an anniversary party virtually and let people from all over the country or all over the world see what we do. Because some of our families come from outside of this country, right? If they're coming to Toledo for medical care, they could be from India. They could be from... so this could be a really cool opportunity to re-engage with some of those families.
That's so cool to hear. It really is. Like... Paul said, I mean, it opened up a whole new door. Now, it's never going to take away the true mission of either one of our
Right.
businesses, because we need to have that caring, that sensitive side to us. And not only that, our direct support staff and stuff, we need to make sure that they're okay. You never want to have
Physically,
that.
right? Yeah.
You never want to have that situation where, like, I'm sitting at home, eating popcorn, doing 10 Zoom meetings. Like, yeah, I've been busy all day, but then not realizing that they've had to wear a face mask for 8 to 12 hours, and they're running out of PPE, and so it's. I guess I'm just adding on to the difficultness of it, but also how proud I think we need to be of our firsthand, or our people on the front lines.
Yeah, it's incredible the work that they do, and we say it, we tell them, blah blah blah, but during these times, you really get to see just how critical. At the end of the day, that road comes to there. The rubber hits the road right there, and that's where the mission's delivered, right?
Mm-hmm. Hey, Chad, I typically ask people this because you'll be surprised on how many people I talk to who are in the upper parts of their career, but have never done direct support. Now, you have.
I have. Yeah.
So I want to hear the first story that comes to your mind, the best one that you can think of the worst day that you had at work.
Oh man, worst days there. We've all got them, and maybe I'm going to expose myself here a little bit, but I'm going to start with one that maybe wasn't the worst day. I'm going to talk about my first day, right?
Okay.
So. And it sticks with me vividly because here I am, 18 years old, right? And I mean the family friend that talked to myself and my roommate, which coincidentally you guys might even know, my roommate, best friend since I was kindergarten, is Brent Baer, who's now the superintendent of Wood County.
Whoa!
And he was the superintendent at NODC for a long time. So we literally lived together. We were going to school together, and this family friend said, "We think you guys would do great at this." She was a speech pathologist that worked there, and I mean, for 6 months, we're like, no, there's no way we can do that, and we're ego-driven 18-year-old kids, right? How can we care for somebody else? And,
right.
And my first, you go through orientation, and honestly, NODC did a great job. I don't remember, it was a week or, maybe even a little longer. You go through all the videos, you go through all the, but I worked this crazy shift, right? And we all worked at direct care. We know the world, so we know those shifts exist, but I'm 18-year-old, I had no idea. So they asked us on the application, do you want to work first shift, which was, whatever it was, 6 a.m. or second shift, third shift. And then there was this fourth shift. And this fourth shift was like crazy, like 4:30 or 5 in the morning start for like 4 hours, right? And you were basically the gap between, you were the layover between third to first. It was it made a lot of sense. So you had to prioritize on your application which shift you. My last priority was that one because I like to sleep till noon, right? So this was insane that was. So I get the job offer, and my friend, my roommate, put that as his first and put second shift as his last. He got second shift. I got fourth shift. So I go in my first day, and it's 4:30 in the morning or whatever.
Oh, man.
And it's the first time. I've got
to
to shower people,
right?
I got to give people showers. I got the stuff we all know very, very well now. But is again coming in, it was such a shock to me. Like, how did I not think this is what I was going to be doing? You know what I mean? I don't know if I thought I was just going to be like doing a bunch of activities or what I thought I was going to be be but it became really, really real in about 15 minutes. Now, I got to be honest, by the end of the shift, I loved it. I loved what I was doing. I knew that I was going to do that for a while, et cetera. But, man, that shift about killed me. I tell you what. Again, hopefully your listeners can be sympathetic to me, but I almost lost my job for being late, and it was so funny. I remember I was in a discipline hearing, and they're like, how can you be an hour and a half late? I'm like, look.
This is not what
if I oversleep at 4 a.m., the fact that I woke up at 6 is a miracle. But I'm thankful that they didn't. They gave me that chance because what I told them in the discipline hearings, I was like, look, let me get through probation. I swear to God, I'll go to second shift. I swear. You don't have to worry about it. And you'll never hear from me again, right? So. Yeah.
Hey, I take my hat off to that because there's a lot of people who go through it, but they don't really recognize the struggle until they're in it. And I gotta honestly say, I never recognized the struggle until I went to residential. I started off my professional career as a bus monitor. I used to go to actual NODC all the time.
Yeah, cool.
And
Our paths might have crossed.
yeah, I'm sure they did.
Yep.
So I did that until I eventually bid it out and worked at a lot of industries.
Okay.
And
I was at Hill Avenue. Where were you at?
I was at Hill.
All right, cool.
Yeah.
I probably left Hill in 03, I think. Early 03.
I didn't come until late 04.
Okay, just missed each other.
Yep,
Isn't that
just
funny?
missed. And once I was there, some people that I became friends with, they ended up starting their own agency. And I told them, man, you're pretty good. Come on out. And I came out and I was like, this is the best thing ever. Like, and I'd literally say to it, and I know Paul has heard me talk about this like tons of times. I was like, dude, I'm getting over. I am making money for doing cool things. Like,
stuff.
I can go play basketball. I get paid for it. I get
Take
to
some of the clients home for Thanksgiving. How cool is that?
Man, I get to eat good food and everything. Like, we can sit here and we'll talk and play video games most of the day. All I got to do is make sure that you're fed, healthy, and I cleaned up after you and do my paperwork.
Yep.
I'm like, there's no better job.
That's right.
There's no
That's
better.
right.
But I think we've come to a place now where I get sad, where I had that enjoyment and I was uplifted by that. Nowadays, a lot of people feel as if, I don't get paid enough to sit here on my phone and look at YouTube, Facebook, and everything else. But I'm responsible for this person, so I should be paid more. Like, you're not even engaged,
Right.
and it's hurtful.
Yep.
You know, because I know you take this prideful. I take this pride. Paul, who is newer into the field, takes it with pride.
Yeah.
I mean, when he meets with an individual, he's there to snap pictures and stuff, and give his 2 cents of what he does. There's still a commitment there and an appreciation that I hear, and we're missing that. So I don't know. I'm sorry. I kind of just hopped in here with this as a bummer, but it's like I want to have people think and feel better about our field of work and be more appreciative of what we do.
Yeah.
It's not easy. Everyone can't do it.
No, in life, what we learn is that when we're grateful for our opportunities and we see them as opportunities, that's when new opportunities. So if to the example you're sharing, if people can be grateful for the job that they've got, for the opportunity with those individuals. I mean, I reflect on those. My wife worked at NODC too, so we both have that history. It helped us raise our kids. It helped us give us a mindset. It gave us so much to go on. I wouldn't be where I am today if I didn't learn a lot of those skills I learned by caring for other people. Quite honestly, I can say that with 100% confidence.
There you go.
Yeah, and I mean, my grandma worked at a lot of industries for a long time. My wife works in the field now, and working from home, I hear her end of some of the conversations she has with us. It's hard, you're dealing with people. You have to talk to people about hard stuff sometimes, and it's like, I see very little other than going out and taking photos, and we'll do sometimes we have some of the clients on the podcast and stuff, and you hear stories, and I had no experience coming in here, and it definitely changes your perspective because, if you're not somebody who works with disabilities or someone in your family with disabilities, you don't think about it.
Right.
You see somebody at the store occasionally, you see somebody out and about occasionally.
And that was me coming in. I lived in a little small town growing up, not a lot of exposure to stuff, and wow, here I am. So you're right. I mean, in some degrees, it ended up being a benefit to me, right? Being unaware, right? No preconceived, but at the beginning, it's kind of like, wow, what did I do here,
My mother used to call that being extremely green.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah, I was green for a while too. Let me tell you.
Hey, well, I heard you say that your wife worked at NODC. Is that where you guys met?
We did.
Nice.
So I'm not positive, but I'm pretty sure she was there that first day because we worked in the same building back then. We didn't end up dating for like 5 years after that or something. So we knew each other for a long time, but No, I think she was there that time, and she sometimes brings up when we're in circles of family and friends the days of me barely making it to work on time, and she likes to reiterate the "how can you be an hour and a half late to work" comments. And I have to remind her that that it was lucky that I got there at 6:30. I could have showed up at like 2.
Yeah, right. Like, hey, what time was I supposed to be here again? It doesn't matter. I'm here.
No, it was strange, and I don't know if you guys can relate to this or not, but the minute my son was born, who's now 22, I now am a morning person. I wake up early. I don't have any issues with that. But boy, back then, if I had to get up, man, it was a struggle.
For me, it didn't begin until I focused on business.
Yeah.
Completely, because I had to try to figure out a way in which I can either outdo somebody, or outwork somebody.
Yep. And you need extra time to do that.
Exactly. And at night, it wasn't happening.
Yeah.
There, too many shows. I'm not even gonna lie. I'm a huge fan of like The Prophet,
Shark Tank.
Shark Tank. Yeah. I will binge watch and watch them over and over. Like I swear, 12 seasons of Shark Tank, or 11 or 12 or so. I've probably seen every single episode, and we'll watch it like it's the first time every time.
Stuff to learn from that.
Exactly.
There is.
Anybody in business, if you're not watching those shows, and this is a free plug, just you should really get in it.
Maybe they can sponsor your podcast.
Yeah, they should.
Sponsored by Shark Tank.
Yeah. Hey, Damon, come on.
My pay is based off of sponsorship. Please. No, I'm just kidding.
Help them out.
I don't have any kids, so I can't really relate. But I find that personally, I get the most done at night. I'm always have been a night owl. I mean, my like grind zone is. I would say like 8 p.m. to like 11:45 midnight. It's just like where I'm comfortable.
Yep.
I'm not in the morning. I'm exhausted. It takes me till noon to wake up.
Find those energy patterns, and wherever they are, make them work. Right?
Exactly.
Yep.
Because I've always been that way though. I don't know. A lot of people say that though. When you have kids, it change. They force you to be up early. Probably.
Maybe
they force you all around.
Right.
A lot
they
like
take
what
control, man.
They do. I have a sign in my house that says, I live in a house that a tiny little army runs that I created.
That's right.
And
it's very true.
It's very true, because I don't care how strong or whatever you think you are. Yeah. All they got to do is look at you with the puppy dog eyes. Right. You would change your whole thought process.
Absolutely.
But yeah, just still on that last thing, it's 4 a.m. period to me. It's either you're staying up till 4 a.m. to get the job done, or you're waking up at 4 a.m. to get the job done. It's you choose your poison at that point.
Yep.
So, a question: Tony and I are big book nerds.
Yes,
do you have any? Yeah. Do you have any? This is a terrible question then, because I apologize. But if you had maybe a few books to recommend to people that are kind of not life changing so much, but something that maybe you go back to, because I find myself. I reread a lot of stuff, and Tony hates Tim Ferriss, but I love it. I read his books, not as 4-hour work week kind of stuff, but his newer books where it's like high performers and stuff like that. He interviews them.
I can appreciate that more.
Yep.
That damn 4-hour work week. I hate that. I hate it with a passion. Tim Ferriss, nothing against you, but that you could have did without that one.
But whatever. Is there any kind of standouts for you?
I do, and much like you, I love to reread, and I love turning pages and reading, but it's tough in my schedule. So I'm kind of an audio book guy now, just out of necessity, right? And I drive 40 minutes to work. I drive 40 minutes home. I'm in the car, so I can read a book in like 3 days, right? You know what I mean? And I love that part. So some of my go-tos that are in my playlist right now, let's call it, right? Servant Leader. There's one by Jim Hunter. It's called The Servant, and it's about servant leadership. And what I like about that book is it's a story. And he goes to this monastery for a week for this. Basically, he's a mid-level manager, and he's struggling, and his boss basically says, go to this leadership training. And the whole book is about that training and who the other participants were, et cetera. So it's really good, and I like it because it's story based, right? And it's engaging. I am a big one now. It's about this thick, but one of my favorites, and it really helped me build my consulting model. Not to get too far off here, but I've created my own strategy model, and that's what I was talking about at the CEO Summit. So my side business, which is really consulting for the most part, but it's using this model. And soon I'll be saying my favorite book is mine, because mine's going to be done in December.
Beautiful.
Congrats.
Congrats. So we're super excited about that. It'll probably launch in March, but December we should finish the edit sections, etc. But another one, and mine's story-based too, for the same reason. It's like, it's engaging.
Those are the best books.
It is. You can read it, you can follow it, but I can still plug in kind of how the model works inside of it. But about this thick, there's one called Principles by Ray Dalio.
Oh,
and
I love that book.
You're on it? Yeah, yes, absolutely. It is great. Now
that's one of my favorite authors.
He is incredible. So for your listeners, if you don't know, Ray Dalio is retired now, but he was the CEO of Bridgewater Financial. And what he did, and why I was looking for it, was in my model, which is a triangle, basically. That's where we start. And the one side is principles. So I'm like, I had Stephen Covey's Principle-Centered Leadership, but I needed more about principles. So I read this book. I didn't know who Ray was. I didn't know, but the name of the book was Principles. I'm going to read it. Right?
Let's get it.
There we go.
Let's form this out. But what he did, basically, at Bridgewater was he said, now he started it 45 years ago. And what he did was he said, because they traded stock, that he wanted to know that if he made decisions on what they were going to buy, sell, trade, that Tony makes the same decisions, or we all make the same decisions, right? So how do you do that? Well, let's write it down. And then he wrote these principles. So basically, if he's on vacation for 2 weeks, they're making stock trades the same as if he was there.
Right.
So then he thought, can I turn these into algorithms, or can I turn this into what we now know as kind of AI? Sure, I can. So they did that. So this computer started making their decisions very fast. They checked it against blah. So then he got a little farther in his career, and he thought, I wonder if I could do this with management principles. So if I can, and that's why my model is so reliant on principles, because to me, that's really what I digress here again for a second, but again, ours is my model is like a triangle, right? That's where we start. I call it the base. So the base is, let's say it's three. Imagine on the floor here, we've got 3 pieces of wood in the triangle shape, right? And one side is our knowledge, one side is our core values, and one is our culture, right? And the culture on the bottom. Now, what if we throw that triangle, not nailed together or anything, just 3 boards, right? Gotcha. Which is an organization. What if we throw it on the lake? What's going to happen, right? The waves are going to move it. That's what happens in our companies, right? So what happens is we get a little new knowledge. Like, as an example, when I define knowledge, I talk about customer needs and expectations.
There you go.
Here's a good, that's one way, right? So our knowledge is internal customers as well. We got to know what our internal customers need, and our internal customers need us as customers. Yep. Customer needs and expectations, industry needs, expectations, what's our vision, all goes on that side. So you think about something like COVID, what happened to that knowledge? It shifted out. Needs and expectations change, folks.
Yep.
And if we had our corners nailed together on that, it would look like a solid foundation, but we couldn't evolve. Yeah. We couldn't adapt for businesses, and a lot of businesses do that. They nail them together. This is just the way we do things, and then all of a sudden they're out of business because they didn't adapt. Right? So back to my example here. Sorry, I digressed a little bit.
No, we're all about it. We love the digression.
But if I throw that triangle in the lake, right, and it starts to drift apart, that's okay. That's the evolution. But we still need to get it back together. We got to close those gaps. So what we would do, envision there's people in there swimming, and their job they're the principals, is to push it back together. So we want to write these principles as companies so that we can get back to, okay, COVID shifted the needs and expectations. Let's learn what they are, and let's create new strategy to tie that back together, right? Definitely. So that's what we do, is we shift those. So back to Ray's book. Ray's book is all about these principles and how he did that, and how he used principles and turned it into a management principle. It was really, it's a high quality book that I go back to quite a bit.
I'm going to have to check. You both have read it. I have not read that one.
Man.
But I'm not a CEO, so.
Be ready. You might be by the time you're done. Yeah, you might be. It will. He's very good. So those two for sure. I don't know if you guys are familiar, but Cy Wakeman. Cy Wakeman wrote this she's got a couple, but this little one, it's about this thick, but it's called No Ego. And I love it because the first thing, you got to read it twice. I'm telling you, I told my staff, because we did it as a book club kind of thing, as our cabinet. And what I said is, we got to read it twice, because the first time you read it, here's going to be the problem. You're going to read it and think of everybody else's ego.
Yeah.
The second time,
Yeah.
you find yours.
Inward, yeah.
right? Yeah. Now, the problem is, though, she named it No Ego. The book really should be like Controlling Your Ego, because I feel very strongly in my base model, we talk about self-actualization and self-concept, right? And my self-concept is reliant on my ego, but it can't take control of the decision, right? So how we balance that in my model is, I have, maybe I think that I'm a good speaker, maybe I think I'm a good CEO, whatever. I have my own self-concept, or maybe I think I'm terrible at those. But if I ask you guys, and I ask the people around me, that balances that. And I got to be open to both, right?
Yes.
I got to be open to both. So how I get better is self-actualization,
Which is
or
hard.
checking my ego, right?
The hardest
She's
thing
got a
ever.
really good book about that, and it really is. She's from an HR legal perspective on kind of how to control drama in your workplace. It's very good.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm definitely going to have
And
to
she's
look
great
into
on
that.
LinkedIn too. She does a lot of
okay.
good work on LinkedIn. So does Ray, by the way. Ray is all over LinkedIn and has a lot of really good daily stuff.
Yeah, LinkedIn seems to be where it's at right now.
Yeah.
It's a. I mean, I never even knew what LinkedIn was until the last couple of years, and I started getting on there. I was like, there's so much
so much
good stuff
It
on
is.
there, and that's like you said, the ego thing. That's like no matter what CEO, what high performing athlete, like whoever you talk about that, or they talk about that, it's always like the top talking point is ego, and they're like, the only way you get better is to realize, like, if you think you're good or you think you're bad, it's the reality is what's important of it. And that's a hard thing to conquer, because everybody wants to think they're awesome, or think they aren't awesome.
That's right. Either one, sometimes we try to be humble and we actually do ourselves a disservice there too. You got to let your ego play out a little bit, or you're not going to get anything done, right?
I will tell people in a minute what I think I'm great at. I think, even at the CEO thing, like I'm not shy, and it's very difficult for me to be that way. But I'm also very humble when it comes to something that I don't know. Hey, I don't know it. I
You
don't
got to
understand
balance
it.
those two, and it's a day, and we're never always right? I mean, you've got to continually work at that. But to me, if you want results in your company, let's say the three of us have a company together and it's just the three of us, and what we want to do is take my base plus your base, and we want to mash those together. What's your values? What's your values? What's my values? And let's pull those together and let's have a discussion about it. And then our company values are that, because even if we don't talk about it, guess what? Our company values are that, even if we don't talk about it, because they're going to play out. Here goes back to my behavior specialist days.
Yeah.
The reason that the base exists, and the reason that I know that triangle works, is because every human decision is filtered by every human through your values, through your knowledge, and through your self-concept.
Yeah.
That's how we make decisions.
Yep.
So if we want to make decisions in sync as our organization, if we work at getting those three things in sync, then guess what? We're in sync.
There you go.
What made you want to start the consulting?
So it goes back quite a ways, actually. So this base model has been in my mind for a while, and a couple things bothered me early in my career. Like, I'm a big strategy guy. Obviously, I'm talking about it now. But the traditional strategic planning model, I struggle with, because what happens most times is it's in a binder somewhere in the back shelf in somebody's office, and we dust it off quarterly. And even worse is, let's say Tony here is the CEO of our company, and he unleashes this new strategic plan, and let's say there's 100 of us. 50% of us or more are checked out. It doesn't matter to me. I just got to do what I do on Monday. I got to do what I do on Tuesday.
Yeah.
So there's no involvement. So I've flipped the model. So how we do strategy is, I want to know, again, where the three of us stand. What's your priorities? Where do you want to be? Where do you want to be? And where do I want to be personally? And if we pull that into strategy, because we're going to do it anyway.
Yeah.
That's my bottom line, is you're going
Right.
to work for yourself anyway, whether you realize it or not. You're going to. That's just what humans do. So if we can see it and understand it and move strategy, when we pull it all together and we see basically a collective vision of where everybody wants to be, that's our strategy. So we flip the model. So back to your question, about 2.5 years ago, I went to my board and I said, I've been working on on this, we've done some incredible things. When I got to Ronald McDonald House, we had a $2.5 million balance sheet. We got a $13 million balance sheet today. We'll probably have $15 million on our balance sheet by the middle of next year. We're doing some great stuff. We built a beautiful new house. We're serving 1,200 families a year when we used to serve 300. We're going to launch a Care-mobile, which is kind of like a doctor's office on wheels. We'll launch that in April.
That's awesome.
We'll serve about 5,000 or 10,000 kids a year with that.
Oh, man.
So our impact is just blowing up, but it comes down to this model. It honestly does. It comes down to that. So I worked with some of my board members over the years and their companies or friends, and I've just kind of worked at it, and it's worked 100% of the time. And it always comes down to, at the end of the day, if we're not driving results, then why do it? So results in every company come down to profitability or customer-defined quality. That's it. Nothing else matters. If our customers aren't happy, including internal customers, staff, and our profits aren't going up, then what the heck are we doing?
Yeah.
Why would you hire me as a consultant to come in if you're not going to make more money? It doesn't make any sense, right? So what I do is what I know is that every time we've used this, whether it's pro bono stuff I've done, whether it's friends, whether it's RMHC, whether it's my church, whether it's my school board role, it's worked every single time. So to me, I went to my board and said, look, I'm not going anywhere, but I'd like to kind of draw this out a little bit. I want to start actually documenting it and start it. And extremely supportive. We talk about it all the time, et cetera, et cetera. But for me, it really came down to, I read something once that basically said, if you had the cure for a deadly disease, would you share it with 10 people or would you want to spread the word? And I'm thinking, if this model works, and I know it works, why wouldn't we want to share it with a million customer companies? Why wouldn't I want to share it with you guys? Why wouldn't I want to increase your profits, right? Why wouldn't I want your customers to be happier with what you do? I mean, I can't think of a good reason why not.
Amen.
Right? And so the best way for me to leverage it was the book.
Yeah.
Right? And let's put it into a book first.
Audiobook too?
I hope so. The lady that's helping me right now doesn't do audio, but she's pretty sure she can connect me to the right people, because I said, it's got to be audio, because that's me.
Yeah. Yeah, that's I live by the audiobook now, but that's super impressive, and I kind of have that same mindset. Like, why start something if you don't want it to get bigger?
Right.
I've left companies I've worked at because they had I was like, let's go 200. Like, you get a new position, you jump in, you're like, let's do it.
But they had their corners nailed down, right?
No.
They're going to stay there. This is what we do.
I'm not going to delve into that, but yeah, I absolutely understand that feeling. So the sharing thing is what's impressive, because I found that a lot of stuff that I look into, because like I do my own podcast and stuff, and I want it to grow. That's the whole reason for it.
Why do it?
Why do it if you don't want it? I mean, it's fun, this and that, but like the constant improvement. And I think I have no expert opinion on this, but a lot of stuff that fails, I think when everybody starts holding their secrets, and it's like people are going to find out, people are going to leave and do their own thing and start their own companies. That's why people leave Google and start billion-dollar companies.
That's right.
Because they're tired of the stuff. So I think it's really awesome that you're willing to share your knowledge on what works, because there's a lot of companies like I study business because I've always wanted to work for myself too. And like I get lost in there's so much knowledge. There's so much knowledge out there. It's hard to dial in. It's
so funny that you say that, because I remember listening to somebody. I can't remember who it is right now, but I'm a huge Gary Vaynerchuk fan. Patrick Bet David. I'm old school when it comes to Robert Kiyosaki.
Good stuff.
Even. Who am I missing? I'm missing a couple of people, but I remember someone saying, like, give your knowledge away,
right?
Because 99% of people are not going to use it,
right?
No,
you're not good, and that's exactly what I've done here at Friends for Life. I've told people, like, hey, if you want to start your own agency,
absolutely,
I'll help you.
Let me help you get there.
Yeah, I'll show you the same route that I'll give you what wasn't given to me.
That's right.
And people really expect, I guess, something different other than it takes a whole lot of hard work at first.
Right.
You're not going to start your own agency without at least putting 5 hard-earned years of the minimum pay.
That's right.
And the
Worst hours.
ultimate, all those fourth shifts.
Yeah, all those shifts, yeah.
You know, and I think people really feel as if because of Instagram and stuff now, I don't have to do all of that. I can just look cute and, work some of the time and then have my own company and drive a nice car. And it's like, no, that's not it. So, I fully agree with, for one, you putting the knowledge out there for somebody to be able to read. And secondly, I love the concept of what you're saying. You know, we do a little bit of that, but I mean, I honestly should probably be consulting you real soon.
Cool. One of the things that I really like to stress about the model is, and I get pressured into this all the time, because normally you read great books or you go to a great training or seminar or something, and we get off that like seminar high, right? And we're going to do this and blah blah blah. But they're kind of like a how-to, in most books you read, they say, you got to do this. What my model is all about is, look, I'm not going to tell you what your core values are. You guys are going to run your business based on the values that you want. My business might be different. Right now, if you say these are our core values and we're not getting the results that we want, we may find that those are in the way a little bit. I mean, we want to talk about them. Like one of the surveys that we do a lot with data, right? So one of the things we reach out first is we say, if a company has core values, we do a survey to their internal and external folks. We say, hey, we say this is our core value. How are we doing? And then we also say, we say this is our core value, same one. Is that important to you, or do you think we're wasting our time on that core value? And that's a great little metric to look at, is to go back to the company or the CEO or the leadership team and say, the core values you have, people think are important to them, but they think you're doing a bad job, or we're doing a really good job, but they really don't think that's what you should be focused on. Right. And then we also, when we get into companies that don't have their core values, we have some data where we're like, okay, is this important to you, or is this important to you? And then we scale them, and I can come in and say, hey, these are some core values that you may want to think about as a starting point, right? I'm not a guy that says put your core values up on the wall, although I think you still should. Yeah. We talk about them in every meeting. So like today, I had a board meeting. So one of the things we do is somewhere on the agenda, it says core value, and the one we talked about today is, compassion, lead with compassion, okay? So what I do is I open it up. I say, okay, lead with compassion. The reason that's important to us at Ronald McDonald House is because, we feel like, one of the things I get myself off on is leadership is a word. And I think leadership is important, but I think it's sometimes misconstrued because, again, imagine me standing in front of a group of 1,000 people and talking leadership. What happens to 50% or more of the audience? They're like, well, that's somebody else. That's not me. I'm not the CEO. I'm not on the leadership team. He's talking about them. So I don't have to worry about it. To me, the word leadership, what it's missing is we need to understand that leadership is influence. So if we think about leadership as influence, what's interesting when we do that is we say, if leadership is influence, then wouldn't different people lead at different times? Quick example, I hope. So we had the power go out at Ronald McDonald House last week. We had a car accident out front, blah, 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 took power out for a little while. Wow. So I had to go up front, right, because it's 8:30 at night. I was still there. Went out front. Who's the leader in that situation? It's my frontline staff that's out there all the time. What do you need me? It doesn't matter what my title is right now. Yeah. She's in charge, right? Definitely. She's the leader because she has the most influence right now. And when people get that through there, I did some work on LinkedIn. I did an article or two on that concept. In fact, that might even be the name of the book. That might have something along with it. We haven't completely titled it yet. But anyways.
You heard it here first, people.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. But I think that's an important thing, right? Yeah. So when we talk about authentic or in this case, leading with compassion, it's about how do you influence with compassion? Because I want that frontline staff to know when that family comes in today, and today is the worst day of their life, you're the influencer, not me, that's it. So, but what's cool is we open it up, and then our board members say, well, this is what it means to me. And that's an important process because back to that triangle and that base, it means something different to all of us. So let's talk about it and let's get on the same page as to what it means collectively. Definitely. And it's a great exercise. We do it with our core values for sure, some of our principles, but we talk about them, right? And we have some time. It's worth 3 minutes on a time on an agenda to get on the same page.
Yeah.
right? I
hear
talked
you
too,
there.
like when we built the new Ronald McDonald house, it was an $8 million project. We spent over $1 million and there wasn't a brick showing out of the ground yet. We were building the foundation. That's what we're doing there, right?
Yeah.
That's what we're doing. We're investing in the foundation.
You know what? That is so awesome because last year, and I think you and I talked about this a little bit, Paul. I had all of my supervisors read Emotional Intelligence 2.0.
Yep.
And I thought that was one of the most important books, being the field of work that we are in, that you need to understand not only your own emotional intelligence, but you need to be able to understand people around you. And I remember I brought it up to people. I was like, hey, you go ahead and get it. It's for your bonus and yada, yada, yada. Well, some people went out and purchased it, but it just sat there. Like, hey, did you complete the test? What test? Oh, that's on the first page.
Yeah, right.
So I know that. So as
Maybe
time,
they skipped to the middle and just read the back half. Maybe.
maybe.
I know I did.
Well, come bonus time,
Yeah, right.
they were the only ones not to get bonuses.
Yeah.
And you would be amazed how quick they read that
Absolutely.
book and completed
Absolutely.
the test and everything else. But then they actually thanked me like, wow,
Yep.
now I see I should have noticed when
Yep.
such and such came in the building and wasn't very happy and, didn't complete their work task. And that's a very, very big part
Huge.
of us as just humans, let alone in the field of work that we're in.
And at the top of my pyramid, at the top of the base, where that gap comes together, I call that the discipline gap. And that discipline gap is all about education, training, reinforcement. That's where we get stronger, right?
Yeah.
So if you think about knowledge on this side, and if my knowledge isn't up to par, maybe my skills or my talent or whatever, but my knowledge of customers, let's say, maybe I don't even completely understand that my board is my customer too. I never thought of that before. That's where the discipline gap comes in, is how do we reinforce that knowledge all the time? And, at Ronald McDonald House, our HR folks do a great job, but we really focus on, it's bigger than evaluation time. It's about what do you want to accomplish this year personally?
Yeah.
And how do we help you get there? And then if we find out that 70% of our people want leadership training, then we'll do something collectively. If this group wants some, financial literacy, if we can make that happen, let's make it happen. Because if people are engaged in their work, and they see their employer as a way for them to get on their own path, it's much better than me unleashing a strategic plan to 100 people that check out.
Yeah.
Because you're driving the strategic plan now, right? Now, as a leader, I might have to look at kind of where the collective stuff come in and say, yeah, but we got to get these things done. And that's cool. But ultimately, I think you'd be really surprised when you pull that data together, people want the same stuff. And it's really in time to where we are probably going to go anyway.
Right.
But they see the path for themselves. Of like, I see where I'm at with that.
I've worked a ton of different things, and I see a lot of people will work very hard, even harder than they should, if they just feel like people are listening to them,
right.
other than just being told what to do
Yep.
and just go shut up and do it.
That's right.
I've worked at places that were very great with that, and they listen to you, and they don't just listen to you and then say okay and then not address it.
Right.
They work with you, and people are very happy. And you work at other places where the opposite happens. They're just like, too bad.
Yep.
One question that's burning in my head. I know we're getting pretty close to an hour here, and you're a busy man. But how as a guy who's been on the front lines most of my career at this point, how often do you find that company values, what they call like their core beliefs or values, are just kind of lip service compared to what they're actually doing?
It's a dangerous question, but I'm going to tell you 80 or 90% of the time, when you do the research, it's about 80 or 90% of the time. So that's why we really encourage people to, either pick them up and run with them, but that's why I like to score them, is, hey, you put them out there. You put them out there for 10 years. Let's ask your customers. I've got a customer that we're working with right now. It's a vet. He's a vet hospital. He's got a couple locations, et cetera, and let's ask your staff. You say this is the core values? Let's see how you do.
Let's see what they
Let's
say.
ask the external customer, because they may think it's awesome, or vice versa, but we need to blend those together, because one is not right and the other one wrong. It's the customers feel it. Ronald McDonald House, we have so when I talked about culture on the bottom of the pyramid before, how I define culture is how we communicate, how we interact, and the feeling other people have about us. And that's reality.
Yeah.
It's reality.
Yes.
We could say our culture is great, or we could say it's terrible. It doesn't. It's that feeling. we just interviewed for a new position this week, and 2 of the 3 people that came in to interview said, I was here helping cook dinner 6 months ago, blah, 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 or whatever. But when I came here, this feeling was like I just had to be a part of this, right?
Nice.
That's a cool thing. Now, they could have been just kind of blowing it to us. But what I say is, if we're really great to our families, but my staff think I'm a jerk, that's a bad culture.
Yeah. Right.
Or vice versa. So I don't care if you're the guy dropping off the rugs, or you're the one delivering some food, or you're a volunteer group, or you're a fan. You should have the same feeling. Our culture should be able to be felt. And I invite you guys, come to the Ronald McDonald House.
Absolutely.
I guarantee you're going to feel that culture when you walk in.
I hear that, and
Yeah.
I would definitely accept that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so you're a busy man. We don't want to keep you all night. It's been about an hour. So before we go, if you'd like to let people know how to learn more about Ronald McDonald House and also your consulting,
Sure.
any social media, and that way they are able to kind of learn more about your culture and what you guys do.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for that opportunity too.
Absolutely.
But Ronald McDonald House, the easiest way to find us is obviously via our website,
Okay.
which is www.rmhctoledo.org. So that's RMHC is in Ronald McDonald House Charities, rmhctoledo.org. Lots of great stuff on there. Our website is really, really up to date. We do a great job of that, but we are kind of going to go over an overhaul, so it's going to look really awesome here in about 2 weeks.
Great.
But right now, it's still awesome. And then on the consulting side, I actually have 2 different arms of that. It's more confusing than you want to get into right now. But the one that I'll kind of plug towards is called BizPulser, B-I-Z Pulser. And that comes into businesses, and we find the pulse, right? That's what we're all about. We go in, and a lot of times for 60 days, we do diagnostic testing, we call it. If you can't tell, my partner in that is a physician, right? He's a physician at ProMedica, and he brings kind of the technology side to it, and then I bring the methodology, and we found a really, really cool partnership together. So we took his company and my company and created BizPulser as a joint venture. But we're doing some really, really cool stuff. So bizpulser.com is literally us on there as well. So I appreciate being on here. I appreciate being able to talk about all this stuff too.
Man,
It's cool.
We're glad to have you. And ladies and gentlemen, please check out all the wonderful things that Chad and the Ronald McDonald House are doing. I know we definitely will be donating from our end, and
Thank you.
We really appreciate the services that you give. And other than that, you're just a cool dude.
Thank you. This is awesome.
I feel like I just got a free consulting session. I feel
Yeah,
smarter already. This is great.
Right? That's the best thing.
Thank you very
That's what I
much.
love. Thank you.
Hey everybody, thanks for watching this episode of the Friends for Life podcast here on YouTube. If you can, go down below and hit that subscribe button and help us out with growing our channel to raise awareness about disabilities, business, all of these issues that are very important to us. I really want to thank Chad for coming on tonight. It was such an awesome conversation. Tony and I both learned so much. We still talk about this conversation after the podcast was over. We hung out with Chad for like an hour just hanging out, talking. So thank you, Chad. If you want to learn more, you can go to the Ronald McDonald House Charities website about that foundation. If you want to learn more about Chad's businesses, you can go to bizpulser.com and learn more about Chad. Very interesting guy, very smart man. So thank you all for watching. We will see you next time.